Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us, and welcome to Firing Range, a podcast to talk about all things Destiny weapons, abilities, loadouts, and the Sandbox at large. And Fantasy Online, too, with your host, Cammy. Oh, that's much better.
Yeah, I can do a little bit of that if you want.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. Wait, and welcome to Firing Range. I have Twitch audio wasn't muted, so I got a quick little echo of myself there in the background. That was fun. Yeah, I actually don't know anything about Fantasy Online at all. I don't even know what kind of game it is.
If you really want me to get into that, I could do like a 30-second explanation.
Yeah, give me a 30-second. I'm interested to know.
Okay. So way back in the day, the Dreamcast era, this was a game that was capable of playing online with other people. So to me, that's already crazy. But it has a lot of the same gameplay loop and elements as a game like Destiny, you know, the looter shooter kind of thing. Acquire weapons to take to bigger bosses, use that loot to destroy even bigger bosses. Then you have the class system, you know, we have Hunter, Titan, Warlock, same thing back then. Then we have the different races, you know, the Awoken, Exo, whatever, same thing over there, Newmans and Cast. So you can draw a lot of similarities because it really did, I guess, almost create a new genre. So I call it the grandfather of the action RPG MMO.
Wow. What year did that originally come out in? And I didn't know that Dreamcast had any online games or anything like that. It's a far away time. I just wonder because sometimes I check you out on Twitch, buddy, and I'm like, oh, Cammy's streaming Fantasy Online. I don't know anything about that. Anyway.
Yeah, it's like imagine if Destiny was only third person, and that's a good way to think about it.
Oh, so like playing Trials.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like playing Trials.
I saw that one coming.
That's all I had to say. Got it. All right, cool. Feel like I've experienced it already. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Cool Guy is not with us tonight because he is bad at time management. And I'm allowed to say that because he's not here to defend himself. But we still have plenty to talk about with the four lads here. So why don't we just dive into it? Right now we have Exodus-focused Umbral Engrams. I mean, we might be diving in too hard too quick. There's a couple of things going on right now, right? We got the new types of focused engrams. We got a new exotic gun. I think since the last time we were all here in the chairs, we had Iron Banner and 2 new Iron Banner weapons. We had those perks that we briefly talked about. We finally got to get our hands on those perks. A whole ton of things we can talk about. What do you guys want to talk about?
Exodus Engrams. New weapons.
Do the Exodus
new old
Engrams
weapons.
First.
Yeah. Let's do that first then.
New old weapons.
So first of all, because I didn't even realize, I was so focused on the exotic weapon that we got the other day, which we can get into later, that I wasn't even really aware. I had my blinders on, so I kind of got into that pretty late. But do we want to explain for the people at home what these new focused engrams are and why we have them now?
Talk about the lore reason why we have them?
Yeah, give them the lore reason, yeah.
Well, as we all know, the Destiny Content Vault is a thing, and because it's a thing, they are removing some of the old, original year one Destiny worlds, right? And so I guess the in-world reason is that we are preparing to evacuate all of these locations. Titan, Mars, Mercury, I guess is Io. Io's the other one. Mm-hmm. And so we are going and we're helping Asher and Sloan and all these people. And in return for doing weekly bounties for them, they give us a focused Engram that is the Exodus focused Engram. And, there's 4 basically reprised weapons that are in it that hadn't had random rolls before, and now they do.
Yay. Well put. Yeah, 4 locations are going away. If this is the first you are hearing about that, I'm really sorry. They've tried to convey that information to the public repeatedly, that, Destiny 2 is trying to turn into a, what is the phrase they keep using? Single evolving world. And they're taking some locations and things and activities away. And by doing that, they hope to put it away in a vault and give us more fresh new content. That way they don't have to worry about having a kitchen table with 5,000 ingredients on it. So their parting gift for some of these locations is a new type of engram. As we mentioned, there are 4 weapons in these focused Exodus engrams. We have the Behringer's Memory. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Okay. Grenade launcher. We have the Ikelos. I still don't know if it's Ikelos or Ikelos.
I say Ikelos.
You say Ikelos?
I call it Ikelos. So
I call
I'll
Ikelos
give you on
too.
that.
I feel like I interchangeably say everything in this game. One day it's Mida, another day it's Mita.
Whatever you have it. The Ikelos Sniper and the Ikelos SMG. And then we have the first in, last out shotgun, which is a Slug shotgun. Do we have any insight on why they picked these weapons particular? Like, because there's some that I'm kind of excited about, some that I'm kind of lukewarm about. Do we have any insight there?
I think it's mainly because these weapons haven't gone random rolls, right? And I think it's a little too early for them to start bringing back weapons that have got random rolls. I think that would just look a little bad, personally. So I think that's why they're doing that. That's what I think.
That's fair.
Right, because Sunsetting isn't even active yet. And for them to be bringing back weapons that have already gotten random rolls this early would be like,
So is there any hype behind these weapons? I mean, it's cool that we can get random rolls on these guns. Have any of us combed through the possible perks and drop combinations? Anything we're excited for in either PvE or PvP? I feel like Drew definitely has something to talk to about it here.
Yeah, I looked into it quite a bit. I was very excited for it because a few of the weapons that I was really excited for, the Ikelos Sniper and First in, Last Out. And I guess I'll add the Ikelos SMG to that. I was looking for a while. I even posted on Twitter like a while back, like, hey, these weapons are in the database. How do we get them? When are they coming? So I was actually really, really excited for them to finally be available. The Ikelos sniper rifle is always a sniper in year one that I held in high regard, and I think a lot of other players did. So I think in general, the Ikelos weapons, it's very exciting to see them get random rolls, especially with some of the perks that they're getting. The Ikelos sniper can get moving target and quick draw, or even my role that I want personally is moving target, high impact reserves, and max handling. And high impact reserves, I actually tested it, does allow you to double body shot with a 140 sniper with the bottom two bullets of the mag. Yeah, so that's a little crazy again. It works until 5 resilience, until 6 resilience, so including 5 resilience, up until 6 resilience.
Okay, that's good.
So, that's a good one, yeah.
Yeah, so again, further reinforcing, you want resilience, invest in 6. But other than that, it's just an incredibly good sniper because the scope is nice. It's higher zoom, it's 45 zoom, but it's got a wider FOV because of the way the scope is styled, so that's nice. Moving target adds the plus 10 aim assist, so it has like a wild amount of aim assist. I think it tops out at 83 base without any mods, which is kind of crazy.
That's pretty high with no extra help.
Yeah, that's kind of nuts. Kind of nuts.
Yeah,
So-
I was always a fan of that gun back in the day. I feel like everyone... I've never been a huge... I haven't sniped a lot since D1. I felt like D1, I started... I don't know about you guys, what you started on, like what weapon class you started on. I was, a Halo guy, so I loved to snipe. Came into D1, loved sniping. And then I think it was about right before year 2, I switched to shotgunning because I tried it out and it was hella fun, and I loved just the blink shotgun combo. And I kind of rode the shotgun train real hard for a long time. And when I wanted to get back into dabbling with snipers, I couldn't really find one in D2 that felt super great. But when I tried out the Ikelos sniper, it felt good to me, and no one else was using it, and I couldn't really figure out why. It was probably outclassed by a couple other options on paper, but I thought the design was cool. I don't know about y'all, that counts for me. I think it looks really dope. And I like that weird scope. It has a diamond-shaped scope. It felt really clean. Yeah, the zoom wasn't crazy. I wasn't crazy about the zoom, but I liked how the scope felt clean. I could get really clean shots. It makes a cool noise when you pull the trigger. I just thought it was a great weapon.
Yeah, I think that what you were saying about the scope, I feel like because it's a 45 zoom sniper, so it's it is technically a bit more zoomed in, but that scope, how wide the FOV is that it shows you because of the diamond, I feel like that mitigates at least how that feels. Which
it definitely does.
Good.
It does, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that if you remember it feeling good, it's only going to feel better because of things like moving target and high impact reserves. Kind of crazy.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that first in, last out. I was a little puzzled, and Cam, you'd probably be able to talk to this because you have a quick draw opening shot, good bone structure like me that I love. But there is no quick draw on the first in, last out, which is interesting. I'm not sure how it stacks up in terms of stats, but it only has, like, the closest you can get to it is pulse monitor opening shot with the new pulse monitor buff, right?
Right.
So that was interesting. Like, it right now, as it stands, we don't have a lot of slug shotguns because of the sunsetting. This is actually, I think, the only one, but the only one doesn't have quick draw, which is like an interesting choice for them to stray away from. I don't know what you think.
And it actually has the lowest base handling of any of the slug shotguns. Not that it matters, it's by 5, but it's sitting at 64, and all the rest are either 68 or 69.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that.
I didn't know that either. Yeah, I'm looking at the every possible perk that the weapon can drop with right now. It doesn't look too shabby on paper. I'm not much of a slug shotgun guy. Every now and then, if I'm going into quick play, I'll put one on, because when you do perform well with a slug shotgun and like you warm up properly, you're feeling good with it, those things are super top shelf, massively top shelf. It's like slug shotguns are usually high ceiling. I have this discussion all the time between high ceiling and like high floor. Spread shotguns are very forgiving, which is why we see them all the time in PvP. Super forgiving to use. Even if you miss the kill shot, you're probably going to do a buttload of pellet damage. Boom, smack them for the melee. Quick switch to whatever your primary is, finish them off. But yeah, slugs can be hot. And we got some interesting options here on the first in, last out. I'm seeing it can roll with Vorpal weapon.
Yeah, that's the most notable thing I think about it. Pretty sick.
I think Surrounded's worth mentioning too.
We do have Surrounded on there. What is the damage buff on that? I can't remember off the top of my head for Surrounded.
All I know is if you put the Surrounded spec on it, it can be around 50.
Wow, really?
It's absurd, yeah.
Yeah, it's
like
ridiculous.
30,
You'll be able
35,
to,
something like that.
Wait
you'll
a
be able to
minute.
body shot.
For PvE, if you were hunting for a PvE god roll, I guess you could go Vorpal or Surrounded, because now that slug shotguns have that damage buff in PvE, if you got like a PvE Surrounded roll, you could really do some damage with that gun in like a raid or a dungeon fight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can actually get the double perks at the double last perk or whatever it is if you upgrade the recaster thingy. So you can get both and swap between them.
Oh, look at that. That's not bad. And we got some other good options here too. We got Demolitionist, which I think is a fantastic perk for both PvE and PvP. You got Opening Shot. I feel like if I was going for a PvP roll, I might be going for that. Yeah, definitely shocking that Quick Draw is not on the gun. Do you think that's kind of Bungie's plan, maybe? Getting like, everybody at home, put your spin foil hat on now. Do you think that they're not putting Quick Draw in the loot pool for the gun because it's just so powerful? Like, we all know how strong Quick Draw is. Usually, if I'm shotgunning, if my gun does not have some kind of handling boost, I'm probably not going to use it.
It would not surprise me if they were going to start kind of manipulating the perks to where like maybe Quick Draw and Opening Shot are in the same, grid from now on. So you can have one or the other, but not both. I would assume that is, because their other option is either nerf it, right, which you don't really want to do. Don't include it at all, or make it a real actual choice. When you put Quick Draw, like if you were to put Quick Draw in that first slot with Outlaw and Auto-Loading Holster, Hipfire Grip, Slide Shot, Pulse Monitor, it's no competition, right? 100 times out of 100 are going to pull Quick Draw, right? So their option is probably, well, we don't put it in there, or, we start putting it in there with all the other good perks that everybody wants to use, and then we make them choose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. I think Bungie definitely has their, what's the expression? Ear to the ground. They got their thumb on the pulse. You know what I'm talking about. They know how much... They have tons of data. We know that. Every time they give a big, huge Sandbox update, they try to, tell us how much they're looking at the data with the major changes that they make to the game. I'm sure there's a chart that they have somewhere in a conference room that shows that like 99% of PvP shotgun ballers all roll with Quick Draw, which would not surprise me why they didn't put it in the loot pool for this gun.
There actually is that chart. I was shown by one of the statisticians that they had at Bungie when I was there, how they, like the depth of information that they can glean from like perk choices and things like that. It's truly incredible. Of course, it also leads to decisions like them removing skill trees and making it skill clusters, right? Like that was a decision that came about because they were like, well, 98% of people are using this one perk, so why do we even waste time building 2 other perks? And there's that obviously didn't go over super, super well. It's better now that there's more options, but so sometimes just looking at data alone isn't necessarily the best way to make decisions, but they do have the ability to look at that.
I feel like we could have an hour-long sidetrack talk about that comment right there, where it's just like, we can see all the perks they're using. Everybody, what was a really OP perk in D1 on a skill tree? I can't remember. Somebody help me.
Skill tree? Yeah, the weapons ready on the Blade Dancer.
Yeah, quick draw Blade Dancer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I guess there is something to say about, like, raising the viability of other perks versus just being like, F it. We're just gonna give them clusters now. Now they have to pick their poison.
But new skill trees don't have clusters that are coming out. I'm pretty sure the new subclasses, unless I'm completely pulling something. Yeah, they said that. Yeah, the new subclasses that are coming out, they're not retroactively changing the old ones, but the new ones that are coming out is a pick your poison as opposed to being forced into clusters.
Really? I did not hear that. That's very unique. How are they going to pull that off?
That's a very clever way to do that because now we get the best of both.
I would assume that it's going to be 2 groups of 4, like top and bottom, and you just get to choose which one you want. It's probably not going to be super in depth like it was in D1, but I assume it will be just more choices. I
was going to say in the defense of skill trees like we have now, there are clusters. Mm-hmm. I do think we've seen far more lethal and I guess far more lethal and synergistic perks now because they're confined to like, hey, you're not going to go use flawless execution with X other broken Night Stalker perk. It's like, we're going to leave this there and put it with whatever else. So I kind of like that, not going to lie.
Flawless execution is arguably broken on its own.
It doesn't need to be more broken.
Without pairing with anything else. But yeah. Also, that when it was in development, I think I can share this. That when it was in development, there's a reason it's called flawless execution. It was getting a headshot kill without taking any damage was what procced it. Instead of it being when you were crouched and getting a headshot kill. And I think it got changed because it was actually really annoying in PvE because it would like proc on and off like all the time because you get so many headshot kills in PvE without taking damage, and it would just like constantly be proccing, and it was actually like annoying. So they made it more deterministic.
Doesn't it constantly proc already though?
In PvE, probably not unless you're killing everything, while you're crouched, right? So
okay.
I don't know how much.
I guess that's just me. I too much. It's just the muscle memory at this point.
I guess from a game developer perspective, the more I think about it, with the trees that we have now, it's easier to just pick a tree that is not being used a ton, and just thinking like, okay, how can we buff this tree as a whole? You know what I mean? Like, remember when Top Tree Dawn, you know what I mean? Now Top Tree Dawn is like straight fire because it wasn't being used, and they just kind of sat down. How can we make that tree viable? What can we do to make that cool? And there's a couple of things you can do. You can make perks work better together and give unique options. Whereas compared to D1, they would probably have to do a whole lot more work, because for each row you'd have to be like, all right, how do we make this one particular perk super awesome to compete with, Blade Dancer?
Yeah, if they do the individual perk adjustment, it can mess up the whole chain of someone choosing a specific combo.
Yeah.
And so they have to test every possible combination every time.
Yeah, or you can do what they do with the Charge with Light mods, which is where they slap stat bonuses or stat penalties on, one or the other, right? Because that's a super lazy way to do it. I shouldn't say lazy. It's a much easier and much less balance intensive way to do it. If you like have one mod that's super overused and you're like, oh, this takes away 20 resilience now. That was actually my recommendation back in D1 for Titan skating when that was the jump that everyone wanted to use. I was like, well, make it so that if you choose, burst jump, it takes away 2 resilience so that you can't max resilience anymore on a Titan if you want a Titan skate. Because I thought that would be a fair trade-off.
That's not a bad idea.
And that's what they've done on Charge with Light. All the arc stuff gives you bonuses and all the void stuff gives you penalties. So they could do the same thing with perks, and it wouldn't even be that hard, I don't feel like.
That is true. Although there's always sometimes there's cracks in the battle plan, right? When you get dudes like Drew figuring out that like, wait a minute. They gave a mobility buff to powerful friends. What can I do with this armor mod? I just put it on like 100 times, get my stats cranked through the roof.
But that's kind of fun though, isn't it? And it rewards
fun, yeah.
you know, an intensive amount of effort being put into a build. You know, like Charge with Light can do some nasty stuff in PvP right now. It took almost 2 full seasons for people to start understanding exactly what Charge with Light could do. But now, like, you are rewarded if you spec hard into certain Charge with Light builds. You can really get some cool stuff out of it in PvP. And, you know, people are like, oh, well, it's broken. It's like, yeah, but at the same time, like, I had to try my ass off to get the good armor set with the right perks, with the right energy stuff, with the right slots, with the right Charge with Light. And then I have to try to activate it too. Yeah. It's like I'm putting in all this effort. I kind of like that it's a little bit OP when I do all that work to get it.
Do people actually think it's broken though?
I have seen, maybe it's just my particularly salty Twitter, but I have seen a lot of people, you know, talking about like, oh, a double stack of Rampage buff to any gun that's, you know, that's indefinite until you get a kill is pretty broken. It's like, yeah, but look what I had to do to get that double stack of Rampage. It's a lot harder than getting a double kill.
Yeah, I hate to sidetrack, but like at the same time, if you're getting double, like, I think in 6s, sure, okay, fine. It's like, I guess, strong, and I like it. But if you're getting double kills or whatever, filling whatever niche requirement you have to for your Charge with Light buff, which again is like a relatively niche requirement, you're popping off in 3s or the most meaningful activities anyways, and it's a win more at that point. Like if you're getting 2 kills in trials,
it's over.
You're winning
it's
the
over.
round. Like,
yeah.
and you're not carrying it. Like it's a win more. Right?
I almost never get my Charged with Light builds activated in trials because, like, what are the 2 most frequent, like, activation perks that people lean on? It's like the double kill or the multi-kill, and then the taking charge where you pick up an orb of light, which is like you either get them from a multi-kill or from a super, and usually by the time supers start poking up in trials, it's like the rounds kind of go very quickly because it's just 3v3, and you don't really have a lot of time to use high energy fire. I see them much more often, and I get mine to activate more in 6v6. But like, it's quick play. Who cares? Like, that's what I'm saying.
Like, that's what I'm saying. It's exactly like the place where it is like the strongest is the most meaningless place for PvP in the game, and it's like I think that's kind of the dynamic now. It's like, hey, just complete chaos and mayhem and just have fun with it. But that's what I like about the Charge with Light mods is I do think that they have value. And I think they're designed well in the fact that in the most meaningful activities, in all honesty, I do think they're more they're a bit more of a win more, as I'd call it, than an actual like, you know, beneficial thing.
Sure. Man, we got way off topic with these focused engrams, but I do like it when we fall down the rabbit hole a wee bit. What
we started on a shotgun, right?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
That's always what it is that leads us off the path, man. So yeah, looking over the perks that we can roll on that first and last out shotgun, I guess I'm going to farm for it. It looks like it could be fun for PvE if I get a surrounded roll. But we got 2 guns left here from the Exodus-focused Umbral Engrams. New to the game, we have the grenade launcher and the Ikelos SMG. Any standout performance perks or combinations on either of those 2 guns?
I have a question actually that pertains to the Ikelos weapons. They have Seraph rounds, and I've seen talk about Seraph rounds still getting the Ricochet rounds original boost, so the invisible like zoom layer, if you will.
Okay.
Right, that increases range, but it doesn't get the stat boost, obviously. I don't know how true or not that is, because when I tested, I feel like when I tested range with the Seraph rounds on the original Ikelos weapons, way long ago, when Ricochet rounds got nerfed, I thought it also got changed. I thought they both got changed. But I haven't tested it yet, but I've seen on Twitter, apparently, some people have said that, that the Seraph rounds now, unless I was wrong before, I guess, get that invisible zoom layer that attributes to more range. So I don't know if you guys know about this or like have confirmation on that, but
I'd seen the same rumors going around, and some guy said he tested it and said that it gave like a half meter or something additional damage drop off. I didn't see proof. I didn't see like a video of it, but
yeah. So I mean, I think the Ikelos weapons are fantastic. Like the fact that they held up, even the year one counterparts, in my opinion, still held up. So like newer weapons is like attributes to that. So I think no matter what, random rolls with things like I think that SMG can get DSR, tap the trigger even if you want like uber consistency on a 750, which is kind of cool. But even beyond that, I guess the discussion for me about the Ikelos weapons at this point is, even though they're not getting the stat boost of Ricochet rounds, in this imaginary world where Seraph rounds get the old Ricochet rounds buff, would you value that old Ricochet rounds behavior, even though you're not getting, you know what I mean, the stats of Ricochet rounds? I think it's interesting.
I use Ricochet rounds mostly for stability, being a controller player.
Me too.
So, probably not as far as it goes, and definitely not, unfortunately, on an SMG, just because as a controller player, I feel like I need stability so much. Like, I can have all the range in the world, but if I can't control the gun, it doesn't matter if my damage drop-off is 2 meters further out, because I'm not going to be hitting anything anyways. So, for me, personally, probably not.
I would agree with that.
I just use the Ricochet portion as intended. I like bouncing the bullets.
After you played with Hardlight for a little bit, it is kind of slightly more intuitive to start using Ricochet rounds and like actually paying attention to it. Because I never cared about the actual bullet bounce. Played with Hardlight for a little bit, was like, actually, I kind of hit stuff more often than I would think when I'm just bouncing these shots. My Galliard 42 has Ricochet rounds, and I've gotten more than a handful of kills when people are running away, one shot, and I'm like, well, I'll just spray down the hallway, because whatever. If I hit him, I hit him.
So I took it to the next level with some old guns, and I'm hoping to see these in the future. So Spare Rations had Ricochet rounds, right? That's a hand cannon. And then an old year one sniper called the Velita D also had Ricochet rounds, and it's a high impact snipe. So what you do is you shoot the wall until you get a Spare Rations hit. And as soon as you see that number through the wall, you just aim at the same bullet hole with your sniper this time and shoot it. It should clean up. They don't think to move a lot of the time because it's only like a hand cannon body shot, but it's still a kill with Velita.
And also, they're probably questioning where they got shot from when it bounces off a wall. And they're
doing like 360s in place.
Yeah, like where'd this dude shoot me from?
You hear 100 dodge get ripped off for a Titan barricade go off.
I am begging you, Cammy, to get a clip of that, of what you just described. I'm just begging for you to get a clip. I would love to see that. That would be the funniest thing
I'll shoot
ever.
you the video after.
Yeah, I feel like you're treasure hunting a little bit. Like, how like people on the beach with like a metal detector? Cammy's like,
that's exactly
searching
it. You're
gold.
doing the Ricochet search.
I gotta ping with the Spare Rations. Switch to a sniper.
Exactly. It's one of the few guns that can do it. You can get max handling on the Spare 2 to get the swap faster.
Oh my God,
and Velita has quick draw. It's like it's built for this combo. But I can't even do it in trials anymore because of the sunsetting in the future. So we'll see.
I feel like they need to have a whole separate department in Bungie for people like you, like just the when people come up with this like absurdly filthy over like why who thinks of that, like how do we, I don't know. But yeah, I'm looking at the tree right now for the Ikelos SMG. Dynamic sway reduction, tap the trigger. You can get both in one in column 3, one in column 4. That looks disgusting. I would love to get that on an SMG. I have not used a 750 RPM SMG in a while. Aren't those quite rare? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't SMG very often.
You don't see them often. The last one I think was the Crucible Kinetic.
Yep, I
what was
think
that
so.
called?
Harsh Truths.
Harsh Truths.
Harsh Truths.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 4 of them in the entire game.
4 in the
that are
game?
legendary. So,
Wow.
Yeah. And in fairness, I actually don't know how 750 RPM works on console, because you can't actually get 750 RPM on console. So the way they fire is they alternate 3 frames, 2 frames, and the rate of fire varies, which is the same way the 720 RPM auto rifles fire on console, right? Because you're locked at 30 frames basically. So it alternates 3 frames, 2 frames. It actually switches back and forth between being a 600 RPM and a 900 RPM. So I think that just long ago.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So I think that just long ago, this was supposed to be a 720 RPM, and they just typoed it, and they just haven't ever fixed it because
really
I don't know. I don't play on PC enough, and I don't capture on PC enough. I'm sure that
I will tell you, I've done the test. It is inconsistent for that reason.
Yeah. So
sometimes you'll get a TTK where you're like, I shot the same amount of bullets. Why did he die faster?
Yeah, we ran into this issue the other day with Promethean Lens, where the ticks of 6, like the burn damage, were seemingly happening more often on PC than they were happening on console, like twice as often. And I was like, oh Christ, like I don't even want to dive into this can of worms. So I literally just like, let's just bury the video and not talk about it. But now, so
and never speak of it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed in trials some people have like really fast rate of fire weapons. I wonder what frame rate they're playing on.
I've heard that has to do with their gaming chair.
Yeah, they got to tilt it forward a couple degrees.
Right.
What's cool about the 750 RPMs, I guess the reason why you'd use it is because I like to believe those are a little bit more controllable than the 900s.
Yes.
But in addition to that, they have pretty high body shot damage, don't they? If I'm not mistaken, I believe they have
15.
Yes, they do.
Body, so
yeah, I believe they're a little bit more forgiving on the TTK in terms of body shot, which is nice. On the flip side, I think many would agree that they have not so great stability, especially in my experience on controller with something like the Harsh Truth. But I think the Ikelos SMG is like that one that kind of stands out. And now that it has like random rolls to get even more stability, if you want to spec into that with all the barrel perks and magazine perks, and then DSR and tap the trigger, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
I think that's really cool. I think that kind of like addresses all those stability concerns of that archetype.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not gonna lie. I would farm for that gun. I play back and forth between M&K and controller. Usually, I'll lean more M&K when I'm playing PvE, just because I'm not gonna get out strafed by a hive. You know what I'm saying? But I feel very comfortable using pretty much any SMG on M&K. It's still a little harder to control the higher rate of fire, but for the most part, I feel fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with the M&K SMG, feels great. When you plug in the controller, I totally agree with you, Drew and Merc. It's very like I can't go above 750. For me was always the ceiling. It was like I would never even dream of attempting to bring a 900R RPM SMG into PvP. That'd be brutal. That would kick like harder than a mule. So usually for me, like 600, 750 right in there. And if you got the right rolls on this SMG, like if you got steady rounds, I never like cutting my range, but in the name of a more stable weapon, if you get someone up close, steady rounds could work. You could get something, what would it control? Like chambered compensator. Like you could really spec hard into stability. And something else that we haven't talked about yet is that, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe these weapons are really easy to farm for. And not only that, when you spec them at the Drifter machine, you can, I think if you have the quest line completed or something like that, you can divide them into 2. So basically you have a 50% chance of getting the gun that you want from these engrams, which is really, really good.
Yeah. On the subject of sunsetting, that's something I need to see more of to have player time investment respected.
Yeah.
Yep.
They did a good job with the Umbral Engrams. They did a very bad job with Iron Banner. I know we're going to talk about that in a little bit, so we don't need to get too deep into it, but it was like getting slapped in the face, going from like the Umbral Engram just raining down to Iron Banner is like I saw 4 2 auto rifles and 2 sidearms like outside of the quest the entire time I played.
I have things to say about Iron Banner.
I think this is a good segue, right?
I really do.
Memory is the last thing to talk about, right? The grenade launcher.
And I don't know much about the weapon.
It's a void weapon, right? Yeah. So just use Swarm of the Raven from Iron Banner. Now let's talk about that.
Perfect.
I was gonna say what's really cool about the Umbrals though, this time around, you can divide it, of course, and focus it further, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. But this is one of the only Umbrals that like I'm actually really happy I'm perfectly fine at this point not having like a perfect version of one of those weapons to just like go for the basic one. Because you have a, minus the grenade launcher, you have a 3 and 4 chance of getting like really a top tier weapon. So for me, I've actually recently just been like, hey, I'll just take the generic one because I'm pretty happy with any of these. So I thought that was
That's
cool.
my approach in general with the announcement of sunsetting. Is just take the role I get, have some fun with it, lean on an exotic when I need to play up.
Fair. Was there really nothing else to share on the grenade launcher? Is it really that basic? That
It's a rapid fire frame as opposed to whatever the Swarm of the Raven is. Let me double check that.
like adaptive or something?
Swarm of the Raven is also rapid fire.
Yeah, it is.
both
Oh, then
abilities.
they're the same.
So I mean, it's meta, right? Like if you're using a grenade launcher for DPS and PvE, then it's meta. But right now we have swords and Charge with Light and Lucid Blade and Falling Guillotine. So it's like, well, you know, that kind of has taken over everything. But I mean, I suppose you can get, if there's going to be a sword nerf for DPS, which I'm sure there will be at some point in time, then you can get one of these, stick it in the vault, and wait until the inevitable change. So
I think Shield Disorient is a pretty cool perk, but I wouldn't say just bet the farm on grinding this weapon because it'll be that useful later.
There's
There
some
are other
interesting
guns that do it
perks
better.
on it. For PvE, I remember like when I was getting a few, I'm like, oh, I'm not sure how exclusive these perks are because I haven't researched it enough. Because the reality of the matter is right now, like you said, Merc, swords are the way to go. But it seemed like there was some cool-ish stuff for PvE on it.
it's a grenade launcher, right? Like grenade launchers, heavy weapons in general are borderline just like criminally ignored in this game, with the exception of boss DPS, and that's it. And even then, the variety is pretty lacking at this point in time. Like they've just kind of been shuttered off, which, you know, a lot of people wanted in PvP, right? Like a lot of people don't want a heavy reliance on heavy weapons, especially in trials and stuff. But I still remember the days back in D1 where heavy ammo was up like every minute, and then you dropped heavy ammo every time you died, and basically you could get, you know, a machine gun up and use a machine gun the entire game. So, you know, if 6v6 is going back to being just like pure mayhem and pure chaos, I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more heavy ammo play, because right now it's like, why would I use a heavy weapon in PvP? You know, like Truth gives me one rocket. Like why would I ever use it, right? So
it seems like a crime. Like I agree with you. I mean, I don't want PvP to be overloaded with, you know, with power weapons, because we want, you know, there's a place for skill and there's a place for silly fun. But like for the places where there is silly fun, let's go all in, dude. Like I love how Bungie is kind of getting wacky with the gun design lately. Because what did we go? We went from like the Wither Horde to the Ruinous Effigy. I love it. Whatever they're smoking over there, keep puffing, boys. Keep the weird zany guns coming. Because like I haven't been excited for a power weapon since the Colony. I loved the Colony, and people hated that gun. It was like, dude, it's hilarious. Like, what a fun idea for a weapon concept. Because, like, you just go into 6v6 and, you know, really feel excited when you pull power ammo.
Oh
like,
my goodness, I remember the Colony. So it didn't work on the right frame rate on PC at some point.
You're
Like,
right,
it only worked on 30 FPS. So I'd shoot the Colony into the air, go into the settings, switch to 30 FPS. And by the time the spiders land, it would work right.
Oh my gosh. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, there was a whole time in D2 where a bunch of things were broken if tied to frame rate. Remember with what was that ability? Phoenix Dive, where you got more health back, I think, if you had a
We're over here on PC. This is busted. Meanwhile,
This
on
is broken.
console, like, I don't see my health bar.
Yeah,
dude.
console's like, this perk is trash, bro. This perk is trash. I'm like trying to like jump the height of 3 buildings, and I dive all the way down, and it gives me like 4 pixels of health. I'm like, this is
Your health starts automatically recovering before it even activates.
Meanwhile, on PC, you take like inch off the ground. Super Saiyan. Oh man, good times, real good times.
So yeah, to paint the picture for D1 power ammo prevalence, I had a machine gun with kill clip. I think that's the whole story right there.
you could actually reload your heavy weapons. It was unheard of in D2. There are probably some people who came in with free to play D2 who like don't even know what power weapons really like do in the grand scheme of things.
Oh yeah,
right? Because like they've never experienced a meta in which power was not even oppressive, but just like useful. You know, powers can basically be ignored at this point, and you know, in 6s, which is interesting to me. But
yeah. Any final thoughts on these new engrams? Is there any that people should maybe go after hardcore, or is it kind of like if you find a good role for now, enjoy?
Go after all of them hardcore. It's just the best role.
You heard the man. ladies and gentlemen. Drew has commanded you to farm these engrams. And again, not difficult. Just 50% of the shot that you want. What are the two guns that are paired together? Do we know per each engram? Because they do 2 and 2, right?
Grenade launcher, sniper, and then shotgun SMG.
Okay.
Okay. I think I might start off with shotgun SMG.
Thoughts on the shotty again. I forgot about this one. It has hip fire and opening shot in the same combo. So is that an M&K like monster that's sleeping, go Ophidian aspects, and just never aim down sights?
I'm kind of down to try that would be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah. That sounds interesting.
We might have to look into that. Well, anyway, yeah, they're in the game right now. Plenty of fun options for just a small number of weapons. But in this case, the small number of weapons is good because it means it's better chances of you getting what you're looking for. So get out there and farm them, or Drew will come after you. And speaking of Drew, let's move on to Iron Banner, which was the thing lately. And we had 2 revived weapons, which I think we did mention on the last episode, right? Pretty sure we did. I got a bad memory. I'm like a goldfish, but I think we talked about it. The Forward Path and the Fool's Remedy. We talked about the new perks that were added to those guns, the Iron Grip and the Iron Gaze. So before we get into whatever, Drew, what do you got to? Because Drew's got something on his mind.
Oh man. Speaking of the way that Iron Banner drops and engrams work compared to the Umbral engrams, I grinded a disgusting amount of Iron Banner this week. Like, I think it's the most Iron Banner I've played in Destiny 2 ever. Mm-hmm. I got, I think, probably a total like 15 to 1600 tokens total without doing my third character. I played a lot, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted one thing. I wanted a Criminal's Dagger, moving target, and kill clip. Okay. I think I got like 3 Criminal's Dagger drops that entire time. Like no more than 5. No more than 5. And I was just thinking to myself, this drop system, like this loot pool, is way too massive. It's like the fact that I feel like you can play that much and not even get many drops of the weapon you're going for is just like, wow, that is painful.
And it's a temporary playlist. And sunsetting has a lifespan on items, so when you're not getting it, you're like, oh no.
Yeah, now that you bring that up, that is pretty bad. That reminds me of remember what was that gun? 180 RPM hand cannon from Zavala.
Service revolver.
Service revolver. Thank you. And I really wanted that. I wanted a good roll. I think I was looking for like kill. I was looking for kill clip. I'm pretty sure. Max range kill clip, whatever. And I did a horrific amount of strike grinding, just painful, just sitting down for like hours, doing the optimal, whatever it was, Lake of Shadows probably, just grinding. And the loot pool is just so huge. So like if you just sat down, it's almost better if you don't do the math, because once you do the math, you're like, what am I doing right now? Because there's like, you have to pull the slot lever and it's like, okay, please be a weapon, because there's a chance that you can get a piece of armor. And if you get a piece of armor, it's like, oh, okay, just scrap it and keep going, keep farming. Let's say, you've narrowed it down. Oh, you get a weapon. How fortunate. Oh, but it's not the weapon you were looking for. It was a cruddy shotgun or a scout rifle. You're like, throw that away. So if you actually get the odds of getting the gun that you're looking for, now you have more slot machine levers to pull, because every column is a little Vegas slot machine. And if you get like one perk off, you're like, damn it. And like, it's just mathematically, it's so painful, which is why, when we get into the habit of talking about god rolls, depending on where the weapon comes from, you might have to settle for that 4 out of 5. You might have to settle for that 3 out of 5. Sometimes it's just too brutal.
Dude, I wasn't even expecting much. Honestly, I think I could have gotten horrific perks in every other category. I just wanted moving target kill clip, and it's like I couldn't even get the gun to drop itself. Mind you, like I'm happy I got a really good forward path, but unfortunately, I really don't like that weapon. So it was like,
I'm like that with raids right now, man. I'm 9 dry on Omniscient Eye. Just the snipe in general. I want one with snapshot, but just haven't seen it.
Yeah,
and that's you could only do that once a week. I know
There's
they
something to be
just
said.
unleashed the cap on the other raids, but not the ones that matter to me.
There's something to be said when raid weapons and like trials weapons had, a set role that you just like, that was what you got, right?
Right.
And now that they don't, it's the same thing. Like, I really want an opening shot tempered dynamo from Scourge of the Past. And like, I just know that the chances of me ever actually getting that are so slim that I did the math and it was like, is it really even worth me trying to grind for this? Because there's no agency. It's just do it over and over and over and over again and be disappointed and hope that one of the pulls of the slot machine gives me the jackpot. And it's so hard to deal with that, knowing that it will also then be gone. And like,
Yeah,
pretty
as a
much
content creator, before sunsetting, I could justify that investment. But after the fact, with sunsetting being announced, I just can't.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, Cam, it's in a world without sunsetting, I have at least a bit more empathy and understanding for such a crazy odds against you. Fine, if you're going for that perfect roll or whatever, cool. But now we're in a sunsetting world. That ain't gonna fly with me. It's like the Umbral Engrams, this is great, but it's not so great everywhere else in the game that potentially even has more meaningful items. And, you really are just hitting the jackpot. Like, when you get a God rule, I don't think some of us even fully realize when we get like 4 out of 4, or sorry, 4 to 5, 5 out of 5, how crazy the odds are to get that specific thing. It's actually wild.
Yeah, again, math. If you just sit down and do the math, it's literally like winning the lottery on a smaller.
I did the math on one gun on the Tatara Gaze, and I was like, so I'm going to be here for 2 months. All right, cool. Guess I'm streaming this for 2 months.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird that D1's Iron Banner had like a better system for,
What was that?
I was
can't
just
even
about to
remember.
bring that
I
up.
can't even remember what this is.
Why do we have
D1
tokens if
it
they're
had-
just going to be used to buy a random slot machine pool? Why can't tokens be used to just buy the item itself and re-roll the item, or just a specific roll of the item? Like Iron Banner brings along some predetermined rolls
like
that you
it
can
did
buy.
in D1. Yeah, it came with a set roll, and then it was like 2 armor pieces and 2 weapons every Iron Banner, right? And that was all that dropped from post game. Was just that. And like, that was it. So if you wanted to grind like the pulse for like Clever Dragon, you knew that it was Clever Dragon League for Iron Banner. And so you would go play a bunch of Iron Banner and you'd get a shit ton of Clever Dragons because it like narrowed it down to that. And that, that's kind of what Umbral Engrams do when you like focus them, is it narrows it down to like 2 things, which seems fair in my opinion and in my experience. So it's just weird to me that like we have still like D1's reward structure, despite the fact that they actually had way bigger perk pools on all the guns and you were way less likely to get the perk that you wanted. Like the actual reward structure with the way the vendors work and with the way like Iron Banner worked, like we still haven't gotten back there 3 years later in detail.
Right.
And in some ways, like it seems like, Iron Banner has moved even further away comparative to the rest of the game.
You struck a bit of a nerve here, so it might be big rant hours here, but the token system seems like it could go back to D1 in a sense. So you're at least rewarded for some part of your time instead of being very unlucky on every slot machine pool. At least you have something to show for it with the old system.
True.
Dude,
That's
I
so
argued
true. Sorry,
really
go on.
hard
Yeah.
for vendors, like actual vendors,
everything.
right? Like,
Zavala, Crucible, all the
like,
above. They need some fixed rolls every season.
yeah, like give us, or shit, give us back the weekly, roll changes
Rotating.
on the weapons, right? Like I love that because it gave me something to look forward to every single week. I was like, oh, it's vendor refresh. Let me check and see if there's any good rolls on any of the vendor things. And like
That was fun.
Even if they made it cost a lot of tokens, I could still justify that because when you calculate the odds, you're like, this is going to cost 7,000 tokens, or I can just spend 200.
Yeah,
And
great.
you know what? Oh man, this is definitely real rant hours right now. Like, dude, we play this game probably much more than normal average Joe, because some of us here sitting at this table, this is our full-time gig. You know what I mean? On the weekends, usually, I am a trial Sherpa, twitch.tv/Fallout Players. I'm helping people try to get to the lighthouse. I play a buttload of trials. I get a buttload of tokens. You would think that I would have the role on the summoner that I want. No, I've been doing trials help every single weekend and I get hundreds of tokens. And I turn them in every weekend. I have an alarm on my phone Monday night to make sure I never, because one weekend I forgot and I was really sad. I make sure I have an alarm every Monday night, same time, 10 o'clock p.m. on Monday. I am at the tower turning in my tokens. I still have not gotten the God Roll Summoner, and this is playing every weekend, like hardcore hours. And so like if I'm doing that, imagine like Johnny Dayjob, you know what I mean, who doesn't have time to play all weekend. He's got other stuff going on. Like he'll play like one card with his boys on Friday night. If I'm struggling to get the role, what the hell's going on with him? He's probably like just like it's a pipe dream to that guy. And like you could just burn through like Drew, remember when we did the Black Armory forge farming?
Oh my god.
I was just like banging my head against a brick wall.
Yeah.
Just couldn't get the weapon to drop.
I was going to bring up Mindbender's Ambition. Every variant that came up, I spent a good weekend on that strike. So when we had the Astral Horizon show up in Trials, which was a replacement to that, and then there was also an exploit on top of that to mathematically guarantee yourself the roll. Oh yeah, I'm putting that on my subscribers' radar, and I'll let them make that moral decision.
Yeah, I get into this argument with somebody maybe once every quarter, right? I know it was kind of boring and like it wasn't a very flashy system. It was very straightforward, but I loved weapon reforging in D1. That was a great. It wasn't designed beautifully. It wasn't like fun or like whatever, but it yielded what you wanted, which is like, okay, you put in effort, you have things to show for it. You could very easily get a 3 or 4 out of 5 roll. Now, a lot of people would come at me and be like, well, that takes the fun out of it. It's like, does it take the fun? Well, first of all, fun is like different for you than it is for me. Like when I get my God roll, I'm not going to put it on my mantle and then just let it sit there forever. Now I'm like, yay, now I get to bring it into PvP and have fun with it. You know what I mean? And I understand that when you get a God roll that cuts away your desire to chase and grind the game. Obviously, to a degree, Bungie wants people grinding the game, because if everyone gets every roll that they're perfectly satisfied with, I'm sure a decent portion of people would be like, okay, no more. There's always people like us who are going to get the rolls we really want and then get our hands in the dough. We're going to take them into the lab. We're going to fight people in PvP. But so there has to be an even balance of, yes, we still have things to grind for, but damn, man, the stick, the length of the stick for the carrot to be dangling on, it can't be that far, man. It can't be far to the point where poor Drew is iron bannering days at a time, and like he just gets 3 of the guns that he was looking to chase, and none of them even come close to the right roll. It's like to give Bungie credit, they have been moving in the right direction. And we don't know what is going to happen in the fall as we move really head on into sunsetting. Hopefully this was kind of like their experimental phase, which is like, I'm feeling good about the Umbral Engram decrypting. That's good. Let's do more of that. Whatever we can do to make it fair. I think Mercules said earlier, he was like, oh, that seems fair to me, which is like, it needs to be fair, because we have a right to play the game a reasonable amount of time and not just feel like it's a hopeless, never gonna happen thing. And it's and it's even worse when like it's a really sick thing for PvP. We mentioned this before. Remember in D1 there was like a hand cannon that you could get like you could get like 3 lucky bullets and like a 5-clip mag or something like that.
Oh yeah, Lingering Song.
Yeah, and when you die to that hand cannon in PvP, you're like, I want to smash my face in, because like you never want to lose to someone because they have a better roll. Like you don't want to feel disadvantaged because your gun is trash and you're like, well, I'm never going to get the God roll because the odds are 1 in a zillion. And that guy, Joe Blow, gets lucky, and now it's like, great, now I have to get spanked by him the entire match because he prayed to RNG. That's
great feedback. But here's like the end cap, I think, on this one is that when Iron Banner's around too, the insult to injury is that all the other playlists, I can't even get a whole lobby. And then when Trials comes, it's not happening.
Yeah, because everyone's playing Trials, right? All the other playlists
it's split between Banner and Trials, so you can't get the regular ones.
I do feel that, my friend. I do feel that. That was a good. I hadn't even remembered what the system was for D1.
Mhm.
So you
Vendor refresh. Let's cross our fingers and really just put that feedback on the table. I'd love to see it come back.
Yeah. I will say this though, that this Iron Banner was shockingly fun. I didn't get every role I was looking for, but the fact that the new guns were not insanely difficult to acquire. Of course, once you unlock them, you know, it's a random drop and then it gets added to the loot pool. So if you're chasing more, could be a little chaotic if you're looking for a good roll. Thankfully, I was sitting on like a mountain of thousands and thousands of coins from Iron Banners that have gone by. So I could dump in a bunch right away. But not everyone is a weirdo coin hoarding smog dragon like me, right? You know, not every player is sitting on a mountain of Iron Banner tokens. So we gotta look out for the little guy, right? The little guys out there who not only want the fresh new loot like the AR and the sidearm, maybe they're chasing something unique, something special, and pushing more in that direction, I think would be a good thing for the game overall.
Oh, well, I think we pretty much definitely crushed Iron Banner right there, talking about it.
Give it the final round.
Yeah, do we want to just go ahead and move on to the community questions? And
I would love to. Yeah, that's really good timing. We got some time left here and plenty of topics. There was one question I thought was really good. Where was that really good questions? All the other questions, trash. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for writing in your questions on Twitter. We really appreciate it. Here's one from Chip Carl. What are the top 10 weapons for New Light players? I feel like out of everyone here, hope I'm not putting too much of a spotlight on you. I feel like Cammy is definitely equipped to maybe tackle some of this question. Hit him with it, Cammy.
So last season, you got the Fellwinter's Lie. That was probably the best New Light weapon ever released, just in general. Because your only alternative was the Dreaming City shotgun, the Retold Tale.
Yeah.
And now in the midst of sunsetting, I don't even know what they could get for Shoddy. It was Badlander, then Retold Tale, then Fellwinter.
Can you get a Dust Rock from Menagerie?
You can get a Dust Rock. That's a good recommending starting path is to start off your New Light character by doing all the Lost Sectors and EDZ to level up your character. You'll end up getting a Dust Rock Blue shotgun and a Right Side of Wrong pulse rifle, both of which are very strong. So that's already a pretty decent starter pack. Is just going around the Lost Sectors and getting all the Lost Sector guns.
That's definitely a good idea.
Then you can use the competitive playlist to start working towards a Luna's Howl, a Not Forgotten, a Revoker, a Mountaintop, Recluse. All of those are best in slot. And at that point, you probably had played enough to maybe encounter a random exotic drop or two. Yeah, another one to consider is Polaris Lance. That's a 150 RPM scout rifle. I think that one's very solid with a deterministic quest line.
I'm trying to think if there are any activities in PvE that are maybe quickly and easily farmable and with enemies dropping, like you kill a lot of low-level trash enemies. I'm trying to think of what you could do to improve the odds of you getting blue engrams to drop all over the field. So you could get some of these guns that might be good starter weapons, you know?
I think a free-to-play account should always invest in the Menagerie. Even though all those weapons are going to be sunset, it'll give you a good arsenal to have a feel for the game to decide if you want to, make the purchase to the season pass later down the line. For example, I don't think it's very difficult to get a competitive Parcel of Stardust or a beloved sniper rifle. And then also in that loot pool is a Waking Vigil and an Awe-Stringer. So between all that, it'll give you a good sense of whether or not you even like Destiny PvP to begin with.
That's a good idea. I hadn't thought of that. Even if the weapons are being sunset, you can try specific archetypes of weapon. Because sometimes, like, when you find a weapon that really clicks for you, you're like, oh, yeah. But then you just kind of realize, oh, it's like, this is just a really good feeling archetype. And then even if the weapon gets sunset away later, maybe later on in the game, Bungie unveils, hey, a new gun. And you're like, oh, that's in the archetype that I liked before. And now you kind of know, you get a feel for it. You get more experience, and you're just adding more weapons to your collection.
So Dire Promise is the ultimate weapon for the New Light. but then you need an energy shotgun, which is the problem. And there's not too many options for you for
Energy
weapons that will not be sunset.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what energy shotguns would be. Retold Tales an energy shotgun, right?
Yeah, I should also say that you can do a glitch to get last wish weapons from the raid. So the Supremacy Sniper Rifle is also pretty good.
There's a glitch to get weapons from the
Yeah,
raid?
yeah, you can go under the map and go grab a raid chest on a free account.
Whoa, I didn't know that. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Any other new light player weapon recommendations, gentlemen? Drew, I think you're on mute.
Nope. Whoops. Yeah, that's Cam's thing. 100%.
Yeah, I think he
Yeah,
crushed
pretty
it.
much
Yeah.
Earth lost sectors until you have a decent arsenal. Then start passively unlocking Menagerie through the quest line. And then when you're comfortable, do a little bit of competitive. And after that, you should be able to experience most of the archetypes in the game. And from there, if you're really on board, you're like, this is so much fun in 6v6, consider dropping some coin on the season pass.
Now, just to clarify, Cam, for the new light players who may be listening at home right now, now you're telling them to go kind of around the EDZ, like do around the world with the lost sectors, because you can't acquire every gun from just grinding one lost sector. Like some lost sectors.
Yes. I'm saying go on a journey across all the lost sectors.
Right.
It'll level you up and get you some gear, which is the whole point.
That's definitely a good idea. If you're a new light player, I would recommend listening to Cammy. He's a smart dude, knows what he's talking about. Okay, we got more questions here. Here is one from Rockstar. This is a two-part question. Part 1. How would you feel about adding more game modes to comp? If you're in favor, what would you add? I guess let's handle that part A of the question first.
Can we get rid of survival and make it something else? Like just straight up before we add more game modes to it? Like
if we're playing in Imagination Land, you can do whatever you want, Merc. Yeah.
So
I think Oddball would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I would love. I mean, there's some basics out there that just like capture the flag, right? Like that's a golden standard of a game mode that we still don't have in Destiny, have never had in Destiny. I actually think, and this is going to sound weird, I actually think Rift in a 3v3 would be competitive. The big problem with Rift is that 6 stacks went in and just massacred Randy's because of the coordination it took. But I think competitive Rift could legitimately be fun. It's basically Assault from Halo, right? Or Neutral Assault from Halo. So I would 100% love to see Capture the Flag. I'd love to see Rift. I think the biggest problem with Destiny's gameplay in general for new players is that so much of it is Slayer-based instead of objective-based. And that makes it really, really hard if you're not a great Slayer to enjoy the game, right? Because Control is just Slayer with more steps. Pretty much every game mode is just Slayer with more steps.
It is Slayer with more steps.
Slayer with more steps.
So,
yeah, I would agree. For the record, I love Rift. I hope that they would bring it back in some fashion. I thought that was a spectacular game type. If you have no idea what we're talking about, you said it's like Neutral Assault from Halo, right? You get that spark spawns in the middle of the map. And you have to fight over the spark, and then if you control it, you have to push into the enemy's spawn to dunk it. And that's what was fun because it was challenging because you couldn't just kind of sit back or whatever. You had to push aggressively into the enemy spawn to dunk that spark. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, and it was the closest we'll ever get to like fixed spawns too, where it was like fixed sides that everybody spawned on the same side. I mean, I was actually amazed that they were able to make it mostly not 100% able to be spawn trapped. Like some teams got pretty good at it, and that's why we have overshields on spawn now. We actually didn't used to have that, but it was actually pretty good as far as it went. And I think that would be a great 3v3 or 4v4 game mode.
I agree. And then one of the game types I was going to recommend comes up in part 2 of this 2-part question, which is, how do you think King of the Hill would play in D2?
There's a lot of zoning tools in D2, so it would be kind of scary. Like imagine the Wither Horde already into that.
Yeah. You are correct. Imagine a top tree Nova Warlock charged Vortex Grenade, which could probably cover an entire hill by itself.
I think Oddball would be the better game mode. You have to also think with something like King of the Hill or Hardpoint type game mode. Shotguns are going to be incredibly dominant, and they're already. I mean, I guess that's up for debate right now. But I think they'd be incredibly dominant in that game mode, and snipers wouldn't as much be. So for the reason of all those zoning tools, And shotguns, I think that something like Oddball would be a lot more appropriate.
Oddball
Even
is a
Oddball
really fun game type. Yeah.
would be a little difficult because with mobility being so high, someone could scoop the oddball and pretty much like scoot across the map and just, evade forever. Air dodging warlocks or, Titans game. I mean,
Yeah.
there are a lot of tools in place to where someone who is good could basically pick the ball up and run away from.
Well, boom!
else.
I got a solution to that right there. You make the oddball kind of like an object where you pick
No
it
ability
up.
jump.
Boom! Mobility plummets. Like you can't
Right,
do
and
nothing.
then
you
you
can't
could
do
even
nothing
save-
fancy.
Power ammo in the middle of the map. So now it's
Yeah.
like, oh, we can't just run and sit in our spawn. No, we have to leave. Otherwise, a
actually have to
colony will chase
protect-
us.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because whoever picks up the oddball, borderline turns into a deady, right? And you have to do your best to zone and protect that player. Maybe you could drop the ball, but it wouldn't be like an instantaneous frame thing. Maybe you drop it and like you kind of have to really ready your weapon. Your radar comes back. That way you can't just have
ball
people-
taken, ball drop,
ball taken, ball drop.
yeah.
That would be a little too much. I think that would be the game type that would work best from the Halo days. Good question though. Here's one from B+. As a 150 RPM hand cannon, is the Sunshot worth mastering since it's an exotic and therefore immune to sunsetting? If you think so, what build would you make around the weapon to make it competitive in comp and or trials?
Mm,
Well, I would have suggested Malicious Birthright, the tube launcher, but that's getting sunset.
Indeed it is. Well,
Yeah, I
you
don't-
could just say pairing it with a, I'm sure in the future, Bungie will probably bring us more
Mhm.
grenade. I would imagine more, weapons of that variety. So if they come up with a new tube launcher in the kinetic spot, maybe you could pair it with that.
Yeah, my thought is proxy detonates on the tube launcher. It takes them down to one shot from the hand cannon, and then you clean up with the hand cannon, and it creates an explosion. So you do have
Okay.
potential for team wipes like that.
My question is, why would you be focusing on Sunshot as an exotic 150 when Thorn is an option? Because if he's talking about taking in a trials and comp, Sunset's
true.
just not really going to be competitive in that. It's got a fine-ish perk set, but it's limited in terms of what you need to modify to make 150s good. And Thorn's just statistically better across the board, and I think has a better PvP exotic perk. So my thing is, like, if you're looking for a 150 that's not going to be Sunset, just use Thorn.
What Merc said.
I would probably agree. Yeah, it's a shockingly effective hand cannon. Yeah, I think that's a good answer. Next question. Terrific. Great. This one might be kind of a longer answer. I feel like we've gotten this question before in the past to some degree, but we can always change our answers. It's from Nate. Nate wants to know, best tips for getting good at comp. Very, very broad question from our friend Nate.
That's super broad.
Play a lot.
Maybe we could give a...
That's a whole episode.
That is a
think.
whole episode.
We could,
Right.
yeah, we could straight up just save that for next episode at this point.
Yeah.
Should I put it in the bin for
In the docket.
I
Yeah,
think
let's
so.
do it.
Put it in the
I think
docket.
that should be
Comp
a-
and tips.
2 weeks from now, we'll just do how to get good at comp episode.
Maybe eventually the time will come, and we should definitely do it before fall, because when fall happens, we're gonna be in a whole new world of craziness. We should do a question heavy episode and a how to get good at comp. And we definitely need Cool Guy there for that, right? We need him around. We can't answer that, but
All right.
I'll give you a cop-out answer for now to maybe hold you over. Get a bunch of practice. Do not be afraid of getting your ass kicked. And that applies to anything in life. If you want to get good at anything in life, you kind of have to just... There's only so much research and reading up on the topic you can do. You learn the most, at least I learn the most, from direct experience and failure. Learn a lot from failure. I just did a solo flawless dungeon. It's my self-pat on the back there. And do you know how much I failed doing that before getting it done? A lot. There was so much failure. My life is failure. Just keep practicing. Keep throwing yourself at the wall. You will improve in time. Booyah.
All right.
Other question. Let's see. We got a couple left. I'm trying to pick the super baller ones. Some of these questions are very open-ended. Tell me what you think about this one. Here's one from AB. How would you like to see Destiny evolve short-term and long-term?
Bro, I mean, that's how much time you
my
have.
answer is the same for both. It's the same for both.
Yeah.
Short term, more deterministic ways to obtain loot. Long term, more deterministic ways to obtain loot.
Yeah, I think that, like, again, that's an incredibly broad statement, but I think with the theme of this episode, that seems to be our main point.
Fair. Okay, I got time for 2 more questions. These are more specific. So, here's one from...
I got a roll. Like right now, I got an emergency call that came through.
Sorry, really? Are you okay?
Yeah. Hey, Drew, yeah. Can you check the chat real fast?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Okay. I can't check it unless because Discord is here. Did you DM me on Discord?
Yeah.
Okay, because then all the people at home are gonna see the message.
Okay, then don't. Yeah, but just know, can we
I'm gonna wrap it up, baby. That's fine. We got more questions for next time. That's totally fine. Thank you for joining us today. We're gonna do a real quick round the table. Where can everyone find people? Cammy, where can the people find you?
Twitch.tv/CammyCakes, YouTube.com/CammyCakes Gaming.
Love it. Drew, where can they find you?
Twitch.tv/Drewskys, Twitter.com/Drewskys channel, and YouTube.com/Drewskys channel.
Merc.
Find me on Twitter, Mercules904, Xbox Mercules904, and wherever podcasts are listened to, Destiny Massive Breakdown podcast.
Terrific. I'm Fallout. You can find me youtube.com/FalloutPlays, twitch.tv/FalloutPlays, and we record this podcast on twitch.tv/DCP_live every other Wednesday. So please join us, and thank you for those of you who are here with us now. Next episode, we're going to have Cool Guy back at the hot seat. It's going to be a great one. Thank you for joining us very much. Stay safe, and we will see you next time.